back 2 years and looked at
Exactly.
the
That's
funding.
exactly right.
Right, right. That's Sue, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wonder if we're going to get into that same, well, number one, the thing that has changed, we're not a categorical, and the districts don't have flexibility yet because they haven't passed a law taking away the AB 104 statute. So we'd have to do that. So hopefully we're not there yet. And hopefully we've built so much rapport with our legislative members that they wouldn't vote to do that. But, you know, they did it back in 2008-9. So all the more reason to continue the field advocacy, right? But Marianne asked if there, even if we did do something different, won't we eventually have to update CFAT and NOVA? Yes, we will, but sometimes that takes longer. And sometimes, like when I did the initial counts that I just gave you, I had to go back in and check the individual CFADs because the report I ran in NOVA was not as accurate as I thought it was. So I'm looking for kind of a contingency plan if for some reason people are delayed or they do certify, but the reporting out of NOVA isn't accurate. I want to back up to say, can I just, you know, send you an Excel spreadsheet and you say, yep, this looks like you got the numbers. And then I send that over to CDE, something like that. I mean, because that spreadsheet is an exhibit in the interagency agreement, and that's what gets you your funding. So my key is even if there is some, you know, magic that's going to happen later in the year, at least we want to get the money out to you in August, September, and then if something weird happens, we'll deal with it. But what we don't want to have happen is we delay again till January to get the money out, and all of a sudden they do something in December in addition to getting the money out late. And then we got like the double, triple whammy there. You didn't even have any money to begin with, and then they're cutting it. So that's what I'm looking for. I don't know, is everyone going to be around this summer? Do you guys see a problem with if we had to do a revised CFAD as a result of some kind of a revised adjustment? Would we be able to round up your membership to certify something with pretty quickly to get a quick turnaround? How do you guys feel about that? Are people just heading for the hills? But I don't know what hills they would head for since things have been kind of limited, but I know people have cabin fever. So if they get the opportunity, they just might bolt, right?
I think, Neil, this is Janice. I think that if we let them know that it is coming and we give them a heads up. So I do agree that maybe an email is probably the easiest way. So like maybe for some of the consortia who are not going to make any changes based on what was submitted can send you an email to help you to expedite that process, or like you said, send the Excel, the sooner the better. So we let them know that they ought to be around to kind of certify that, and we can email you that directly.
Yeah, I think there's only a handful of consortia that have done something a little different. Most everyone has done kind of the same as they did last year, no changes. Everybody got their COLA, but they didn't do anything different, you know, meaning like one member didn't get it, or a new member came on board, another member dropped out, or one member chose not to, you know, use their funds this way, so they gave it back, and then it was reallocated to other members. There's only a handful of those, like maybe 8 or 9 out of the 71 consortia that did something a little differently. So for the most part, if you guys don't, I mean, scenario 1, we lose the COLA, that seems like people are okay with just going back to prior year's funding. I don't think there'd be any big change there. The other thing is if we get cut below the COLA, I don't know what's going to happen there, and then that gets into looking at carryover and things like that. But I don't even want to go there right now because that's a whole nother conversation that I don't know if you guys have had that conversation yet in your consortia. So I don't know. Dana says it will be hard to get people to certify in the summer, but what about in May? So if the revise comes out on Friday and Monday morning, we send a message out with instructions and we have a webinar on that Friday, the 22nd or 21st to walk you through how to do a revised CFAD. Do you guys think you could get that certified or at least get me the information by the end of the month? Would that be easy, or is end of May going to be difficult to round people up? Kristen says we'll be around either way. Kathy says Marin, yes, they can contact everyone. You can let, Rebecca says, yes, we can let them know that we may need to do this. Okay. Let's see, so late July might be difficult, but we're looking at May. So hopefully we don't get into June or July. We want to get this done. Let's see, Bob says you might authorize the lead to respond in email in the summer. Governing board authorizes the lead. Yeah, it might get a little dicey, Bob, for me. If I need that CFAD certified. I mean, compiling the exhibits for the IA through a spreadsheet and emails are fine. But when I give that contract to be signed and CDE signs it, I think we have to have those CFAD certified, because we don't want some member coming back saying like, didn't have a public meeting, I wasn't informed, someone signed without me. There could be that one member that didn't like the way things went and decided to throw a monkey wrench. So this is kind of be like a behind the scenes process, but we still need the formal process, like Mary Ann was saying, to certify those CFADs if we have to do a revised one. Nancy says, send us the information as soon as possible. Jody likes the spreadsheet. Yeah, we'll try to avoid doing summer. We want to stay away from summer. We don't want to go back to flexibility by the districts. Mary Ann says, I'm fine with whatever is easier. My only issue is getting public meeting approval for changes. I can call an emergency virtual meeting. Okay. And then people agree with Jody. Okay, Neil, we are small consortium. We will not have any changes. We can approve it as soon as possible. Good. May works best. Okay. So it sounds like, as long, Emma says above COLA is easy, below COLA will require a meeting. Okay. Yes, so I guess we won't know until next Friday if it's going to be above COLA, below COLA, deeper than base. So, okay. I'll pause there to see if anybody has any questions before I turn it over to Veronica. I just want to say, looking at fiscal agent versus direct funded, in the beginning of this CAEP program, we were a little volatile. We had a lot of fiscal agents, and then a lot of people went to direct funding. But in the last 2-3 years, there's only been a couple of changes. So we've kind of settled in on we've got about a little less than half are direct funded and a little more than half are fiscal agents, and about 10 are K-12 and about 28 are community college fiscal agents. And so that's kind of been the way it has been. So hopefully that structure is working for everyone. I know some people have, they deliberated over switching. Some did switch this year. Some decided to remain the same, but had the discussion. So that's great, because each region is a little different, and each fiscal agent, as we know, is a little different. And so, you got to weigh those pros and cons. So I'm glad to see this option of fiscal structure gives you the opportunity to explore it and discuss it. So Crystal says, how soon could you give us new allocations once the May revise comes out? So if the revise has enough information for me to go into NOVA and do an allocation amendment, then I'll do that as soon as possible. and then we'll get the word out as soon as I press the submit button into Nova, which will post those allocation amendments. And Veronica and Holly would be available if you guys had any questions, but we'll probably set up a webinar the following week just to walk everybody through it. But because I don't know what is happening, maybe they don't cut us, maybe they take the COLA, maybe they do something else. I'll have to react to that when I find out on Friday. So give us a little time to find out the actual details, because sometimes adult ed isn't called out specifically. So we have to find out deep in the budget what the impact is. So Tatiana said, I thought the CFADs were unable to be changed or updated. We will have the ability to revise it on our budget change after the May revise. So Veronica, do you have a chance to come on and just explain how the revised CFAD process works in Nova when we changed that, when we did that last year?
Yes, it is. So the actual CFAT, and I can bring it up. I can share my screen and bring it up. But the
Okay.
actual CFAT section in Nova will change. So when Neil receives the updated allocations, that number where it says total CAEP funds, that number will, if it changed and went to a reduction, it will decrease. And so you'll have that negative number or that negative balance for that line item. You will not change the allocations in that CFAT section. You would then go to an allocation amendment. I'm bringing up Nova now. You would then go to an allocation amendment and account for that reduction. So 1 second, I'm bringing up.
I don't think I see your screen yet.
Oh, I'm bringing it up now.
Oh, okay. So okay. I'll get to Lonzi's question in a second. It's a good question.
Okay, and so in Nova, we are here, and I'm gonna scroll down. So in this consortium CFAT section, this number here, the total CAP funds, that's the number that is going to be reduced if the COLA goes away, for example. And so this total remaining will be a negative number, but no changes in this section in Nova will occur. Members will have to, or the primary contact will go into the allocation amendment and start an amendment here. And so what's going to happen is it's going to say total allocated to to members. This number will stay the same. So this 1.7 million will stay the same. However, total CAP funds, that's where the reduction is going to come into play. So this number will be reduced. In your total remaining, you're going to have a negative number here. So what you're going to do is you're going to start an amendment and go through the amendment process. To account for this reduction. So you want to get your total remaining back down to 0 by deducting whatever the reduction is, getting down to 0. That's pretty much what will happen in a nutshell.
All right. Thanks, Veronica.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have Yulene has some technical difficulties. She was having trouble seeing your screen, but I don't know.
Okay,
But
I'll take a
Lonzi
look.
did have a good question. So, and let me throw this out there because it's not for us to decide. So if they take away our COLA and that is just a reduction by the state and the COLAs were proportionate to your share, is that really a decision to be made by the consortia if the state takes away your COLA? So I see where Lonzi's getting here, to set up a new board meeting and go through that process takes time. So if this isn't a public meeting requirement because we are just adjusting your allocation, I mean, I can't make that decision at the state level as far as what's public meeting material and what's not. What do you guys think? I mean, so if something happened, are you having a public meeting, or are you just, telling your members to go into the CFAT and do the allocation amendment certification because we're doing an adjustment. So Bob says, that was my suggestion for a public meeting. Governing board authorizes lead to fill out state forms proportionate to the reduction. Okay. So Bob, would that still be part of the public meeting that the governing board authorizes the lead? And then my question to Veronica is, can a lead certify for its members? I don't think the ANOVA allows for the consortia lead to certify for other members. Is that right,
Yes,
Veronica?
that's correct.
So each member has to certify the allocation amendment themselves, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So it's just something to think about. I think if everybody's in your consortium is on board with that, and your district, is okay that they don't see this as a public meeting, you have legal counsel to back you up that this is just an allocation adjustment. As long as you have that district backup and everybody's okay with it, I don't think we're going to make a big deal about it. But other people might think otherwise. Bob has a suggestion, and then Kristen and Crystal are talking about they're going to have public meetings. For some consortia, it's easier than others. And Dana says, as long as the major decisions regarding amounts remain the same, right? So we're not going to be the public meeting police. I'm just giving you a heads up that that's something you guys have to figure out, and how to do that quickly, and how to get members to approve the allocation amendment if we do have one. Okay. So I wanted to share, I don't know, Veronica, is it okay? Do you want me to share some of I shared a little bit of the survey data, but I'm just wondering, do you want to share that, or do you want to wait till the newsletter? I don't know, what's your feelings on, do you want to talk about all the information we're gathering through the Google groups and the regional networks and the survey?
Yes, I can talk about the Google group information and everything.
Okay.
So as you all know, we have been promoting our newest Google group, and that's, again, another opportunity for collaboration outside of the regional network meetings as well as the office hours. So if you have something that comes up and you need an immediate response or help with resolution, or you have a resource that you want to get out, that's definitely a platform that you can use for that. And so we are still encouraging everyone to please participate in that if you would like to. What we did was, because we have information or questions that we would like to pose to the group, but we want to make sure that we are presenting the questions that you are in need of responses to or need information about, or that you have information to contribute to. So we developed a Google form where we pulled the different topics that we have, and we have questions for each of the topics. And so we have the results of those, of that poll. So we'll be putting out questions based on the highest ranked or order of importance for particular questions starting on Monday. So thank you all for contributing to that. It'll still be open for a little bit, for a couple more hours. So if you want to contribute to that, you're definitely more than welcome to, as well as if you'd like to join the Google group. And this isn't just for administrators. We encourage instructors, counselors, support, data personnel, whomever would like to contribute to the conversation or learn about what others have going on. You're definitely more than welcome to participate. And then the next thing, we did wrap up our last regional network meeting in our first series of regional network meetings. And overall, the regional network meetings have been successful. It's definitely been an opportunity for everyone to engage with one another and to learn what is going on within the region. We also had quite a few participants who participated in regional network meetings that were not associated with their region. So that was a great effort in collaboration as well. So we decided that we will continue on with the regional network meeting. Of course, we'll take a break throughout the summertime, but we'll come back right before the beginning of the school year so that we can come together and collaborate and network with one another, kind of get started for the school year. So definitely be on the lookout for an invitation for the next round of regional network meetings, which we're thinking will take place around the 1st and 2nd week of August. And I think that is all that I have.
Okay, some people might have heard this information before, but I'll serve some of the, share some of the survey data. You'll see it probably next week in a update that Veronica is going to send out, but let's just take a look at, and I don't have this for posting yet because it's not ready for publication, but so 90% of the 230 some odd districts that have responded are offering remote learning. So that's great. And 4% said no, they're not doing it. 4% are still discussing it, and about 2% don't know yet. And then about half and half as far as accepting new students. About 52% are not, 48% are. Of course, about 78% have seen a decline in enrollment, which we expected. The percentage of decline is about half is over 25%. So we know it's greater than that. We're hearing a lot of things. But the interesting thing is, so nobody's updating TOPS Pro. And I know that some people wait till the end of the quarter, the end of the month, end of the week. But when CASAS ran their reports mid-March to mid-April, we had an increase of 10,000 students statewide. But that doesn't really tell us really, because we know people update in different ways. So we'll still be monitoring the CASAS TE data to see, but maybe by the end of the quarter, we could see some big changes, or maybe into summer. We also looked at, are you involved in the Census 2020 complete count? 88% of the districts that responded were involved. And then which programs can't you offer in a distance learning environment? The one that came up most was, of course, adults with disabilities, and then CTE and workforce prep. And then to a lesser extent, you know, at about 10% ABE, GED, high school diploma, HiSET was ASC was about 11%, ESL was about 12%. So a lot smaller, like adults with disabilities was 16%, CTE was 28%, and workforce prep was 20%. So we know which program areas are being hit the hardest by the distance learning environment. So which remote learning platforms are you using? Google Classroom, Google Sites, 90%, and Canvas, 31%. And then, of course, MS 365, Teams, Moodle was 19%, Zoom was 17%. What remote learning curriculum software or other tools are you using? 45% Burlington English, 26% USA Learns, 25% Aztec, 25% Edgenuity, 32% EdTech applications, which includes a whole host of things, 24% News ELA, what else we got here? 20% Odysseyware. So we'll share that with you, a whole bunch of stuff. What percentage of your students have access to remote learning options? Let's see, I think 32% said 80% or greater. If you want to go 60% or greater, that's more than half. If you want to go, yeah, so it's looking pretty good, but the follow-up question for students without internet access, how are they learning? And about 81% are doing packets. They all are offering, about 16% are offering teacher follow-up, outreach, text, phone, Zoom, whatever, if they can give them internet access, computer loanouts, hotspots, Wi-Fi, those kind of things. There's only 11% of the schools that aren't providing access to their students, which kind of mirrors the 10% that are not offering remote access. So, and then what other student supports are you offering? 85% said, or 86% said job assistance, 72% said food, 69% said mental health or medical related services, another 69% said public assistance, and it drops down to 45% for shelter referrals, 17% for access to technology, then a small number, very small number of childcare, financial assistance. And then, do you offer CTE? About 180 responses said yes. And then if you said yes, do you plan to offer remote option for CTE? 62% said yes, 10% are discussing it, and then 24% said no or no answer. So that's kind of just a real brief overview. There were more questions, and I just want to share that with you. So let's see if we have, so can we get the report? So Veronica's working on it, Ryan. She should have that out in the newsletter next week. And Marina, so we'll be sharing that via the newsletter. So we're going to make sure everyone opens their newsletter next week. And let's see if there's anything else. It would help, Kristen said it would be helpful to find out from agencies who are accepting new students how they are enrolling them, onboarding them, particular the challenge with doing intake while processing the students' privacy, issue of assessment and placement. I guess that can be raised in Google group. Yeah, good question. All right. Any other questions or discussion items? Is there an update on state education stabilization fund discretionary grants under the CARES Act? This was mentioned in this week's newsletter. So the only thing I've seen is CARES Act funding going to the schools that are issuing Pell Grants. Now, if there's education through the stabilization funds through the school district, I'm probably not the best person to talk to. Maybe somebody else on the line might know about if their district is getting these funding.
Neil, this is Carolyn.
Go ahead. Yes.
So I think perhaps what they're
hi,
talking
Carolyn.
about, hi Neil. What they're talking about is in this week's newsletter, there was information about reimagining workforce preparation, the discretionary grant program. That was in this week's newsletter. And I know we actually have it on I put it on our CAEP office agenda for Monday.
Okay. Yeah, isn't that a competitive process?
I think so. And I think the California Workforce Association is perhaps working with community colleges, and we're going to have to make sure that adult ed is part of that. So.
Okay. And Carolyn, since we have you there, Burr wants to know if there's any update on the grant award notice for the WIOA 2.
It is working its way through the approval process. I will tell you that at the moment, our division director has been very busy with a lot of other items related to Perkins and the joint advisory for career technical education, whatever it's called. And so I will tell you that it hasn't been on the top of his list. So we'll get there. I keep asking. So, and Neil, I also saw a question from Emma about GED HiSET testing. And I think that's really up to local areas and contacting GED and HiSET, their person. I did say I would get a hold of Debbie and Adam, Debbie from GED and Adam from HiSET, to see what their thoughts are in California, since they're California folks. But I know that we have testing centers that are starting to open and look at how they can do that.
All right. Thank you for the update. Okay, and then Veronica just said she checked the Ed Stabilization Fund discretionary grant website, and their NIA has not come out yet. So more to follow on that. All right. So any other questions questions today that have come up? Things you've seen, heard, rumors that you want to dispel and reinforce?
Spread.
I don't know. we're all kind of waiting on pins and needles for next Friday.
Yep.
So, Caroline, I don't know if you heard the beginning of the discussion about, revised CFAD and how to go about
did.
getting
I've
that
been-
information to the state. So, okay.
I did. I've been on the whole
Okay,
time.
Okay.
Putting my time between
So our
this and the
goal
other
is to
meeting.
get that, right. Our goal is to get that interagency agreement over to you guys as soon as possible. So,
Yep, that would be awesome. We're ready to take it and move on it.
all right. So Emma asks, we are starting our annual planning sessions. Any recommendations on approach to our strategies? So we haven't changed the template, but I'm sure your annual plan will look differently than it has been, I would assume, because of all that's going on. And, I guess I would review kind of your 3-year plan to see what your priorities were, and then maybe review them against the current situation to see how your priorities have changed. I don't know if anybody else has thought about, their annual plan that's going to be due in August 15th, what process they're going through. So let's see, 2021 annual plan development has been a moving target. Critical that we determine our role in economic recovery, supporting the population we serve, but hard to do in uncertain funding environment. So maybe next week we'll have better, firmer ground to plan on, possibly. Yeah, and that's what Kristen said as well, waiting till next week. So good thoughts there. I mean, how can you plan if you don't know how much funding you're going to get? Also, up-to-date LMI seems to be a critical piece of information. Yeah, I've asked for that as well. I don't know what sectors. I mean, you guys have heard, I know logistics and supply chain are going well in certain areas, healthcare, of course, but I don't know about other industry sectors. It's all kind of hit or miss depending on the region. So that regional LMI is so critical. You hear rumors that I don't want to repeat of mass layoffs. It's all localized. So I don't know what other people are hearing with their LMI. But that's a good question. Something to consider, because you're going to have to chase that moving target for the economic recovery. And I think they're going to look, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was on the Riverside Workforce Development Board meeting yesterday. Actually, no, day before yesterday, and they reported over 200,000 applied for unemployment in Riverside County last month alone.
Oh my God.
So it was pretty devastating, but things are changing all the time, so that that data is not looking good for the time being. Sorry, didn't mean to be a negative person, but it just didn't sound good in that meeting. They're quite concerned about where Riverside County is in the whole scheme of things.
Right. So Jody, you haven't heard, because you guys are a major supply chain part of the country as it feeds into LA and beyond. What are they seeing in logistics out in your neck of the woods, as far as, are they seeing a lot of layoffs in that area, or is it still going strong?
Well, most of the data that they have is about a month behind. So there isn't anything that's real current right now, because of the time delay of how businesses are reacting to the slowdown in the economy, et cetera. So there isn't anything that I have seen in the data recently that is real indicative of any particular industry. It just hasn't caught, the data and the information that they have hasn't caught up yet. They only have the unemployment rates.
Okay, and Dana says seems to be going strong now in logistics. That's just my impression. Sherry did ask, do you anticipate that our funds could be used for something other than our program areas due to COVID? So, I mean, they could make a priority, like CTE could be a priority. I think in the last, what was it, the last recession? Maybe it was 2008 or it could have been 2002. I don't know, one of those ones they focused, I think this was on the college side, but they focused on basic skills, workforce or CTE and some other area because they know those are vital to getting people back into work. So I would say, Sherry, where else would they focus? I mean, you got to get people back into jobs. You got to retrain. I know the COVID thing and the vaccinations are critical. And I know getting people food and shelter is critical, but also the economy, I think, would play a role in that as well. So we're hoping, you know, CTE, basic skills, ABE, ASC could be our salvation to jumpstarting that economy. I don't know what other people think. Mitch says ETS issued a round of furloughs today affecting their HISET team. Oh, not good. Sherry's colleges are talking about not-for-credit quick trainings, certificate programs, which are similar to the K-12 adult CTE programs. So if you want to talk about quick trainings, I think I would put my money on K-12 adult to get a curriculum up and running and approved probably within a couple of weeks versus, I don't even know how long it would take not-for-credit to get up and running. Maybe they're pretty nimble, but kind of along those same lines. But not for credit is not okay with our funding. Yeah, so we have statute and regulations that wouldn't allow not for credit to be used. So let's see what happens there, but good point. Anybody else have comments? Could CAEP be adjusted to include not for credit training with stipulations? It would have to change ed code and Title V regulations to allow that to happen. Connie says, but finding credential CTE teachers is difficult. Correct. So yeah, here we have the chicken and egg question about, you know, colleges call it contract ed, community ed, but on the K-12 side, it's community service programs or community ed. They don't require the credential, but in economic recovery with all hands on deck, would they look at kind of waiving those requirements and allowing us to jumpstart the economy? That would be a good question. And then Sherry adds, would it be faster to change ed code or write and get an approval for new non-credit courses? Well, Sherry, unfortunately, they didn't flex or change the ed code for CTE course approval. So even if it's a non-credit CTE course at a college, they still have to go through the long chancellor's office approval for CTE course approval for non-credit and credit. So K-12 would be faster on their CTE, but then you have that credential teachers issue that Connie brought up. So I think those are things that we need to think about and talk about and be prepared for, but all good points. Anybody else thinking of stuff that that we might have to fix in order to, you know, be responsive to an economic rebound, be responsive to those students in need or just community in need as a result of the current crisis? What flexibility do we need? How do we protect our program? How do we partner with our K-12 and community organizations to help adults in the community and their children? All those kind of things, you know, I guess those are the kind of partnerships we should be building with our community and with our K-12 districts and colleges. That's why the regional consortium, I think, if we can get the word out, is a perfect model for working with this population. You know, the low income, the limited English proficient, the no high school diploma, low income, unemployed, limited or low literacy level, that population, we're perfectly situated to deal with that, and all the partners that we have in our consortia also are responsive to their needs. So Kristen says more flexibility with credential requirements would be very helpful. Yes, that's very true. I don't know if they'll do that, but it's a good suggestion on the college side. On the K-12 side as well. I don't know. We'll have to talk, maybe that's something that we can talk at the state level with Carolyn about, maybe seeing if there's any flexibility with the Commission on Teacher Credentialing on credentialing requirements with CTE.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I'm sort of making some notes about that to see what some of our options might be as it relates to that flexibility. So
yeah, I know county offices do kind of emergency credentialing and all kinds of ways to somehow, I don't not get around, but you know, make sure things keep flowing. So there could be some other options.
So a couple things.
That,
one is with
go
people
ahead.
being laid off, as Jody was sharing. There may be individuals out there who would be willing to come in and teach now in their industry sector, in their pathway area. And so they would be, assuming they have 3 years of work experience, they would be eligible for the designated subject credential. The piece that would have to be waived perhaps or reduced is the training pieces that are a little costly. So we'd have to look at that piece. But if someone has workforce experience, they're eligible for that CTE, designated subject credential. So, and it's like a preliminary credential, and then they just have to work on getting their professional credential. So.
Right. So, I mean, other things we could look at, I don't know if these are even practical, but if the teacher credentialing issue is kind of a dead end, I don't know if we allow a waiver or flexibility just within CAEP for community service, community ed programs to potentially use CAEP funds. I don't know, something that we'll have to talk about and see if there's any regulation or statute that would prohibit something like that if we wanted to provide some flexibility.
Yeah, let's add that to our Monday's agenda.
I was just thinking out loud. Connie's, yeah. Connie says, we have experts in the field teaching classes that teachers count at the community college level, but not on the adult ed side. So that, yeah, has to do with those teacher credentialing requirements.
Yeah, and that's the same issue. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's a lot of good information to share. Keep brainstorming, keep feeding us ideas, because we will eventually have to get pretty creative. It sounds like, you know, as Jody was saying, what I've been hearing, you know, this is not going to be a short-term downturn. It'll be a little bit longer than anybody can imagine. Even with vaccines, it'll take a long time for the economy to recover. So I think we have to think long-term, maybe like a 3-year plan long-term on this. So keep thinking. We'll keep having these meetings on Friday to brainstorm and get your feedback. Karen says, could we add that teachers with a master's degree in TESOL but without credentials aren't able to teach in adult schools? Okay. And then Kristen says, could SWP, Strong Workforce Program, be more deliberately tied to CAEP, meaning more intentionally collaboration with adult ed and encourage or require, so far mainly focused on college, community college credit and K-12? Yeah, we could talk to them about that. It would be helpful if we found out those pathways. So if that is a little late and, you know, behind, if we knew where those industries were hiring, we could probably try to build some pathways with Strong Workforce Funds or try to collaborate with them to build those pathways for those jobs so that LMI becomes even more critical as we kind of build out our plans and start leveraging other fund sources. So Bob says, from Kristen's lips to the chancellor's ears. I'm going to put that on the headline of the newsletter. That's great. So Crystal says, Kristen, in San Diego Imperial, we were able to form, bless you, non-credit adult ed work group under SWP. Amazing. Maybe you can share that with us, Crystal, on how that came together, who's partnering in that effort. That could be a good little success story that we could share out. And maybe other people could try something similar, or at least it could make the state aware of there is, you know, efforts going on, you know, down at the local level. People are working through these things and making it work and having results with it. Looks, it took took like 2 years. Yes, I can share. Okay, anything. We'd love to see it. So I don't know, Veronica, I've kind of sold the stage here. Anything you want to share before we sign off?
No, I have shared all that I had. I posted a few links in there, including OTAN's
Okay.
webinar on Monday on the Rachel device, which is a remote device that can be used for distance learning. So if you are interested in that, definitely check out that webinar on Monday at, I believe it's 10 o'clock a.m., but the link is there for registration. And then I also posted the link to the Google group as well as the poll that will be open for a little while longer this afternoon. I know that there were people who had asked about the survey results that you had went over, Neil, so those will be included in next week's newsletter. So please be sure to look out for those results and, you know, share them with whomever, but they will be included in next week's newsletter. Other than that, we are just moving right along.
Okay, I was reminded, John Warner came on one of these regional calls, I think it was this week, and he was sharing advice on working with your K-12 district, you know, working with their parents, working with those students that might be terming out on their IEP for becoming an adult with disability at 22, you know, showing the district that you are a partner in this and you can work together. And maybe there won't be this call from the districts to try to take, you know, the adult ed funding, that they can see a way to work together rather than, you know, be at odds with each other. So I don't know if, I know there's a lot of examples out there of some real good parenting programs, a lot of success that we heard on the regional calls with adults with disabilities, of people continuing to offer these programs. So those are some real shining examples that could connect with our K-12 district partners. But I don't know if anybody has any other thoughts to share. Think about it, and we can continue this dialogue next Friday. But let me close with Carolyn. If Carolyn has anything else to say before we close out, and then we'll let Veronica wrap up.
No, I don't think I have anything else. I hope those of you who participated in the CASAS pre and post test, remote pre and post testing, are considering doing some of that. And I'm going to echo Sherry's sentiment for all of you that are moms to have a happy Mother's Day. Off to Veronica.
All right.
Well, definitely thank you all very much for participating in today's office hour. As Neil stated, we will continue with next Friday's office hour at 1 o'clock. The registration link is posted on the CAEP website as well as our registration site. So thank you all very much for your participation, and everyone have a great weekend until next week.